i.e., finding a shidduch is as difficult as splitting of the Red Sea. Parnasa is as difficult as the tearing of the Red Sea, not splitting, but tearing of the Red Sea. So whenever our sages talk about the difficulty in finding a shidduch or the difficulty in Parnasa, they use the word kriyat, lo bekiyat, kriyat yamsu, this tearing of the Red Sea. The Torah does not use the word kriya; it uses the word bikiya, uvka'eyu. And I'll show you inside. Let's take first the copies here. Actually, I forgot to bring my own. Forgot to bring my own chumash. Is there a chumash here? By any chance? Chumash most?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The next up.
Huh?
Right here.
Do you want to know the English one? It's okay, it's fine.
Do you have two more copies?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe three. Okay, let's take a look at the first page. The first time Hashem mentions that Moshe should split the sea, he should raise his hand, stretch out his hand, raise his staff rather, stretch out his hand. Take a look at the first page, Pasuk Tazayin, which begins with the word V'ata, right here. Pasuk Tazayin, V'ata, and you, God tells Moshe, Harem es matcha, lift up your staff, Unitei es yodcha, stretch out your arm, Al Hayom, over the sea, Ufka'ehu, and split it. Not Ukra'ehu, which would mean to tear, Ufka'ehu, and split it. V'yavo b'nei Yisrael b'toch hayam v'yabasha. So the Jews shall enter into the Yam, which will become dry land. Okay, take a look at the next page. So this is God telling Moshe what to do. Split, take your staff, raise your hand, split the sea, and all the Jews will go by. But the word that's used is uv. Remember this word, uvka'ehu. Baka means to split. Beka, crack, split. Split the sea. Not tear, split. So in the biblical language, we don't find tearing. Kriyat Yamsuf, what we know of Kriyat Yamsuf means to tear. In the Chumash, it's not, that language is not found. That wording is not found. Take a look at the next page. Turn to the next page, and you will see Pasuk Chav Beis. Need another one? What did I just do there?
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Take a look at the next page. And it says on the next page, this page here, which begins page 94. Turn to page 94, Pasuk Chav Beis. Well, actually, Pasuk Chav Aleph. Moshe stretches his hand over the sea. God delivers a very powerful eastern wind. Vayolech Hashem es hayam beruach kadim aza, a very powerful eastern wind. Kadim means east. Aza, strong. Meruach, a wind. Kol halayla, the whole night. Vayosem es hayam lecharova, and the sea turned into dry land. Vayiboku hamayim, vayiboku again, and the water split. What happened after the water split? Vayavo b'nei Yisrael b'toch hayam, and the Jews entered into the sea, which became Bayabasha, became dry land. The Hamayim lehem choma, and the water became firm as a wall from their right and from their left. Miminam umismolam. Okay, turn the page. Next page, page 96. Now, actually, in between, what happened in between 94 and 96? Okay, 1 second.
Oh, all the 95s are in front of you. There's
Oh.
one stack of just 95.
Oh, yeah, clear. 95.
The ones that I handed back to you.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 95, okay. So it says in between what happens, the Egyptians saw, hey, a clear pathway. What did Hashem do when they saw a clear pathway? He had the water come back. The water came back to its normal state as water. and everyone drowned, and not one single Egyptian besides Paro was left. Okay. Take a look at Pasuk Chav Ches on page 96. Vayashuvu hamayim, the water returned back to its normal state. Vayachasu es harechev es haparoshim. It covered the driver and all the paroshim means the wagons that they were using. The chol chel Paro, the entire army of Paro. Haboyim achareim, which followed Bayam into the sea. They all died. Like nishar bahem ad echad. There was no one, not even one, ad echad, until one, meaning up till one person. That Paro was the only survivor of those that went to fight. That is. Look at Pasuk Chav Tes. So we're talking about the Egyptians have drowned already. The Jews have gone through already, long time ago. Now the Egyptians have drowned. Look at Pasuk Chav Tes and tell me if you have any questions. Uvenei Yisrael and the Jewish people, they entered, they walked into the dry land, which once upon a time was Betoch Hayam. It used to be a sea, now it's dry. What question begs to be asked over here? Many. I need some help. Huh? Pasuk is repetitive, isn't it? Not only is it repetitive, it's in the wrong place. After the Egyptians drowned, the Jews went by after the Egyptians drowned. First it mentions the Egyptians drowned in Pasuk Chav Ches. Then it says after there's not one single survivor amongst the Egyptians. U'bnei Yisrael halchu b'yabasha. That's out of place besides being repetitive. But I want you to check. Good. What order? You're right. You're right. That's what I want you to. Very good. Look at the difference. Excellent. That's right. First it says in Pasuk Chav Beis they went into the Yam. Then it says Yabasha. In Pasuk Chav Tes it says Yabasha b'toch hayam. Interesting, huh? Any other difference? Very good. In the first pasuk it says they enter, Yavo, Ba, entered. And the second pasuk it says the next time in Chav Tes it says Holchu, they went. In Torah everything is precise. Any other difference? This one's going to be harder. This is more subtle. Well, I'll give you a hint. Choma, very good. Choma with above, choma without above. The choma means a wall. But why is it spelled without above a second time? How do you say ire, anger, wrath in Hebrew? Chema. Same exact letters. Ches, mem, hey, chema, maza chema, anger, ire, wrath. V'hamayim lahem, the Torah is hinting, choma, but that choma was chema. The water was angry. It didn't want to split. The first time around, it doesn't say the water was angry. It says the water was a wall, protected the Jews, allowed them to enter. But the second time around, Bnei Yisrael, holchu, they're not bow anymore, they're holchu, bayabosha, b'soch hayam, v'hamayim lahem, this time around, the second time the pasuk mentions about the Jews going through, choma without a vav sounds like, if it's with a vav, then it's different spelling than chema. But when you spell choma, which means a wall without a vav, the exact same spelling as the word chema, which means anger. Who was angry? We'll learn later on in a minute. The malachim were complaining to God. They're splitting the sea for them. The water didn't want to split. I know water don't have feelings, but these waters had a power, God's mazel, which refused to abandon its nature of being water. But why doesn't it mention the first time? So all these questions are going to be answered. And once we get the answer to these questions, we'll understand why today we refer to the splitting of the Red Sea not as Bikias Yamsuf, which would fit the wording of the Chumash. Anyone tells you, did you learn about Bikias Yamsuf? But what? What's Bikias Yamsuf? Bikia, like a bucky? Someone who knows what's Bikias Yamsuf mean? They won't know what you're talking about. And if you daven, I don't know if you daven Meir or Shabbos actually. The Hayam Bokata Lifneim. In the morning, what do we say before Shemon Esrei? The Hayam and the sea Bokata. You split. Doesn't say you tore. Korata says Bokata. Vayiboko Hamayim. Bokeya Yom Lifnei Moshe in Myra. I don't know if you daven Myra, but I daven Myra. Bokeya Yom Lifnei Moshe. Bokeya. Throughout davening, throughout the Chumash, it's Bokeya. Suddenly, in Gemara, in the Talmud, they refer to it as Kriyas Yam Suf, the tearing of the water. Water doesn't tear. Why would they change from Bekiya to Kriya? So that question and all the questions that we just asked about why the reverse, why one time it says Vayabasha B'Sochayam, then Metochayam Vayabasha, Vayavo, Holcho, Choma, Chemo, all these questions will soon be answered. But in order to get to the answer, we have another question to deal with. The beginning of the parsha it says, Amar Para, this I don't have the, I didn't make a copy of this, but you look at the beginning of the parsha, Parai, Amar Parai, listen to this, Amar Para Levnei Yisrael, translate, help me. Amar Para Levnei Yisrael, Para says to the Jewish people, Nevuchim Heim Bamidbar, they are lost. The Jews are lost wandering in the wilderness. The Jews have left already. Who's Para talking to? Amar Para Levnei Yisrael, Para is talking to the Jews. What Jews? The Jews that refused to leave Egypt perished. They're dead. The Jews that survived left already. So which Jews is Para talking to? You understand what I'm asking? For Amar Para of Bnei Yisrael, Para is telling after the Jews left, long gone. He's telling Bnei Yisrael to the Jewish people. That Rashi is bothered by. What does Rashi answer? Yeah.
I think that was the Rashi that he said it, he had like he saw them, like he saw.
No, how do you translate Omar Para live Bnei Yisrael? Was Para talking to the Jews?
He saw it. He saw it like a vision that he saw.
What does it mean talking to the Jews? That's a different Rashi. But this is referring to a different Rashi. No, I want to know, how do you explain the word Omar Para live Bnei Yisrael? Literally means Para was talking to Jews, but there's no Jews left. Oh, about the Jews. Sometimes li could be about. He was talking about the Jews to his own people. That the Jewish people are lost. We're going to get them back. Don't worry about it. We're going to have a comeback. We're going to make it back. We didn't lose. It looked bad, but we're going to get them back. Okay. Guess what? That's what Rashi says. You know who disagrees with Rashi? Someone who lived way before Rashi. Close. Also a Targum, but not Onkelos. Yonatan ben Uziel. He was one of the 80 students of Hillel. He was the greatest student of Hillel, lived about 2,000 years ago. And he has a Targum. You don't have it here, and here we have Onkelos only. But in some Chumash, you have Onkelos and Yonasan ben Uziel. You know what he says? Oh, my Pari Levnei Yisrael. Yes, Pari was talking to two Jews who remained in Egypt and survived. And who are those two Jews? Dasan and Aviram. Good old Dasan and Aviram. Those wonderful two Jews. According to Rashi, maybe, but not according to your Targum. Yonasan ben Uziel says, these are the two Jews that Pari is saying, you guys are smart. Use your brains. These Jews are coming back. They're wasting their time. We're getting them back. We're going to fight them back. You've saved yourself a problem. So Para is telling Dasan and Aviram, who survived. Now there's two, what you call in Yiddish, a klutz kasha. Have you heard the word klutz kasha? Klutz means like a thick piece of wood that gets into your way. Sometimes we have questions that, wow, are so bothersome, we can't go any further. It's like a monkey wrench destroying everything that we've learned. What are the two questions you have to ask? The Targum Yonasan ben Uziel's shot. Parai is talking to Dasan and Aviram, who remained in Egypt. Two questions come up. You have to ask these two questions. If you know your Chumash, you have to ask these two questions.
When do they leave?
Huh? Weren't they at Korach, by the way? How'd they get there? If they remained in Mitzrayim, how did they get to the other side? What, they had Hamas digging tunnels? How did they get to the other side? And question number two, why did they survive? Were they tzaddikim? They were Rishoyim. They were rebellious. They were recalcitrant, rebellious, Gotzim, Arudim. They were really horrible people. Whatever Moshe Rabbeinu said, they did the opposite. They caused them so much problems. What was posed? No, all throughout. They were rebellious. First in the very beginning of Chumash, Shmos, they were fighting. Who were the two Jews fighting? Guess who? And And what do they say to Moshe? Are you going to also kill us like you killed the Mitzri? And they informed Paro. They're Muslim. These are horrible people. Number 2, this week's parsha, but the man. Moshe says, don't leave any man over. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will be another supply of man. Don't leave anything over. Don't have trust in Hashem. Guess what they did? They left over. Moshe says this. They do the opposite. Thirdly, with the Meraglim, they started screaming with the Meraglim. Let's go back to Egypt. Complain to Moshe. Look what you did to us. And then with Korach, they took the side with Korach. What was their final end? They were eaten up with the earthquake, swallowed. They had a very bitter ending. But they're here. How'd they get there? And do they deserve do they deserve to survive? Why did they survive? All those Jews who refused to leave Egypt didn't survive. These were no tzaddikim over here, Dosan and Aviram. And they did survive. Becomes a source that you wouldn't think would be the source. A Litvak who lived about 100 some years ago, 150 years ago. His name was Yeshua Leib Diskin. Maharal Diskin. He's known to be a brilliant genius, but very Litvish. And you would think it wouldn't come from him, what he just said. He says, guys, you're forgetting a 5th place where Dosan and Aviram are mentioned. And this is something good. It says like this, at the end of Parsha Shmos, I didn't make a copy of this, at the end of Parsha Shmos, it says, Paro had a hierarchy. The Nazis learned from Paro, by the way. They had a hierarchy of taskmasters who were in charge of Jewish policemen, who in turn had to make sure that the Jewish people would have to meet their quota of slave labor, finding their own straw to make the bricks hold, and yet having the same exact quota of amount of bricks per day. And that was very, very difficult. The Jews started complaining, it's impossible. And the Shaitrim, the Jewish policemen, would get beaten if they didn't force the slaves to make sure to meet that quota. You know what it says? They got beaten. The taskmasters, the Egyptian taskmasters, Noik Separoi, gave the Jewish policemen a beating for refusing to punish the slaves for not doing their job. Amongst there were quite a few police officers, these police officers, for getting hit, were rewarded later on. You know what their reward was? They became prophets. They were called the 70 elders. But we're not finished. Amongst the policemen, there were 2 policemen who also got hit. They went into the trenches for their brothers, and they got punches and they got beatings. They didn't feel disconnected. They were connected with their fellow Jews, and they got beaten. And these Jews come to Moshe, and they said, "You have made us smell. They've hit us so hard that the things they hit us with cause a stench. Our bodies stink." And Rashi even says, who are those 2 people that screamed to Moshe, "You've made us stink, and Hashem will judge you for that"? Dosan and Aviram. They got hit. As much as they were apikursim, as much as they were heretics and didn't believe in Moshe, didn't believe in anything, they were a bunch of atheists. And lahachis, just to get Moshe angry, with no motif, no purpose. These Jews, as bad as they were not disconnected from the rest. They were very different from the rest of the Jewish people who did remain in Egypt and perished. Those 4/5 were kapos. They were free from slavery. They were on the Egyptian side. Egyptians loved them. And they were hated by the rest of the Jewish people. Because why? No Jews were complaining. You took 4/5 of our population, you destroyed them. They were such evil people. I don't want to mention someone today who's just like one of them. Someone, I don't mention names. They say he's Jewish, but I don't believe he's Jewish. They once asked him if he feels sorry about being a capo during the Nazis. You know what he said? No, I feel good about it. I did what I had to do. No guilty conscience. That's sick. For a Jew to have a sociopath type of heart, it's hard to believe. Anyway, well, all the 4/5 of the population were like that. They were happy. They were with Egypt. They couldn't care less about their brother, and they were completely disconnected from the rest of the Jewish people. Dosan and Aviram were not like that. And in that schus, they couldn't become prophets. They were not. They didn't believe in it. If you don't believe in higher authority, how can you become a prophet? But yes, guess what? Although Hashem didn't reward them becoming prophets later on, they did survive. That's chus, they survived. And Hashem allowed them to remain in Egypt. But the question still remains, how did they get to the other side? So here's what happened. When Parai called them, come, we're going to fetch your brothers back. Guess what? Doesn't even follow Paro. They're on Paro's side now. They hated Moshe more than they hated Paro, by the way. They hated Moshe with a passion, with no reason, no understandable reason, like a Molech, just for the sake of hate. They follow Paro. What do they watch as they get to the sea? Hey, they watch all the Jews going, but they watch a miracle. And then the sea is open. It's dry land. So the Egyptians go in. And they're about to go in as well. But as they're about to go in, following all the Egyptians, what happens is closes. So we stay back. Now it's water now. It's not going to walk into an ocean. All of a sudden they're like, wow, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we should have. Because everyone's gone now. They're all alone. So they did a slight hira tshuva. Not real. It wasn't real. It was a slight, hey, maybe we should have. And all of a sudden, the sea opened up again for them. So this is after the Egyptians drowned. There was another splitting of the sea. But this splitting of the sea is called tearing of the sea. When the Torah talks about splitting, it's talking about the first splitting. When the Chazal or sages say about Parnasa and about Shidduch being so difficult, it's the second splitting. Now, let's take a look at the Psukim right now. Take a look at Pasuk Chavtes. He asked before the question, why does it say, Holchu b'yavashu b'soch hayam? Very simple. The first time the Jews entered, they entered water. They didn't wait till the water split. They entered water. They had Amunah. What's the wording when you enter something, you enter a place that's dangerous? You say bo'u, like bo'el paro, come to Paro. You don't walk to Paro, you come. You have to enter a palace. They entered into the Yam. They weren't walking into, you don't walk into a Yam. They entered the Yam the first time around. Vayovo, viyovo, vayovo. But the second time around, it's Dasan and Aviram. They're not going to walk into a Yam. You know when they walk in? When it becomes Yabasha. Vayabasha, holchu vayabasha, betoch hayam. And now we understand why it says holchu. Vayelech, you walk. Like you're walking on the beach. Holchu vayabasha. But they didn't go into any dangerous place. It was dry. Now the sea is angry. For these tzatkalach, these Rishoyim were going to split. Moshe Rabbeinu would have finally have a life to live. Do they deserve all the Taurus they cause? They deserve, and all the Taurus they will cause. Do they deserve to have a custom-made Kriyas Yamsuf? V'hamayim lahem chema. The water was angry. For these people, we're going to split. The first time around, the water was not angry. On the contrary, it was a schus. Because if the Jews don't go through the Yam, they don't get the Torah. If you don't get the Torah, the whole world comes to an end, including the Yam. So the Yam is very happy with the Jews entering the Yam Suf. And it's split willfully. But the second time around, when these two evil people were going through, they didn't want to split. Now, no, because they're not entering any water. They're walking into a dry land. When you're walking in the street, you don't come. No, but when they actually walked in, it was already dry land. They waited till it became dry. They would never have a serious nefesh to walk into a sea. They were waiting, and surprise, they even made a miracle for them. Custom-made miracle just for these two. B'nai Yisrael, when it says B'nai Yisrael, doesn't mean all the Jewish people. It means two Jews. B'nai means plural. Plural can mean two people too. Just like when it says, well, Amar Para, live B'nai Yisrael. What does Yonasan ben Uziel say? Who are the B'nai Yisrael Para was talking to? Just two Jews. The same two Jews in Pasuk Chavtes. Holcho b'yabasha b'soch hayam. They went into Yabasha, not into Yam. But the water was angry. You can understand why. Now let's go back to the question we asked about why do we use the word kriya? Why is the second one called kriyas yamsuf, the tearing? One answer could be that if the water is angry, when you tear something, it's like you're destroying something. Just like when person Nebuch is a mourner, you tear your clothing, rip your clothing. So one answer could be the water felt that for it to open, it had to be ripped. When you rip something, you tear something. The first time it's split. Not tearing, it's a split. Comfortable. The second time around, you're tearing, you're forcing me to split. I don't want to split. But there's another answer to the question. The story goes, here's the Pasuk of Beit. Look at Pasuk of Tes. Doesn't say Pasuk, no, and Pasuk of Tes doesn't say anything. Right. So what we're saying right now is that the reason why our sages use the word Kriyat Yam Suf, they're referring to the second time. Huh?
What is, you said, Kriya? Chazal?
Chazal. When Chazal say it's hard to find a shidduch and it's hard to find panasa, they were referring to the second time around. Now let's understand that. You know what? Why shidduch something so hard? I'm gonna find. I know who I am. I have too many. I have baggage, and I don't deserve to find a shidduch. Or sometimes it's the other way around. This person, that person's not for me. Either it's because either you feel so low or you feel that person's too low for you. Parnasa, it's not working. Hashem is not going to give me parnasa. We say, yeah, just as Hashem made a miracle of the Yam splitting for two evil people, although that wasn't easy, but they didn't deserve it, He will also give you what you need to. If He did it for Dasan and Aviram, you're not worse than Dasan and Aviram. He'll give it to you too. But person has to understand, if you want to be zoicha to have a good shidduch, then you have to at least have the virtue of Dasan and Aviram, which is allow yourself to go through trouble to help another Jew. Allow yourself to go through sometimes physical, not torture, but some physical discomfort. And then you'll be zoicha to have the fate, the good fate of Dasan and Aviram, and you will get married. So if marriage comes difficult, do something good like Dasan and Aviram did, meaning show connection to your fellow Jew. If it's hard to give tzedakah and you feel like I work so hard for this mitzvah, I work so hard rather for my parnasa, I give that away now? Yeah, that's called feeling almost a body connection to another Jew, to the needs of other Jews. And likewise, other mitzvahs. Sometimes when you work hard and you sweat, I don't mean physically sweat, I mean sweat, emotional sweat, intellectual sweat. You're working very hard and you feel it's not worth it, but you're helping out another person. That's the schus that Dasan and Aviram had to survive and to have a custom-made Kriyas Yamsuf. So shidduchim are like that too, and likewise parnasa. Now, before I answer your question, I want to just go back to Kriyas Yamsuf. Why is it called? Another answer why it's called tearing. This question was asked by the Ger Rebbe, the first Ger Rebbe, whose name was it's called the Chedush Harim. Yisrael Meir Alter. His last name is Alter. Yisrael Meir Alter, who lived at the same time as the Tzemach Tzedek. And he was asked this question by his student, Shmuel Shinover. I don't know if you don't know those people anyway, but neither did I hear about them. But Shmuel Shinover wrote a commentary on a sefer called Tana Devei Eliyahu, which is a sefer which Eliyahu Hanavi had conversations with a certain Talmudic sage whose name was Anan. And this student of the Chedush Harim wrote a commentary on that sefer. And in his commentary, he writes, I asked my Rebbe, the Chedush Harim, how come it says Kriyas Yamsuf and not the Kriyas Yamsuf? This is a very same question. And he answered, I can't tell you. There's a lot to talk about, but I can't give you everything I want to say. Because Milmaila from on high, they're closing my mouth. I can't reveal the real answer. But all I can tell you is, look in Hilchos Shabbos, Shulchan Aruch. And he said, he wasn't the Lubavitcher, but he followed the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. And he said, in Shabbos, you're not allowed to tear on Shabbos. What does tearing mean? If I tear a piece of paper like this, tear it, will I be violating the law of tearing on Shabbos from the Torah? No. You might have a problem if you cut it to a certain size, but just cutting it, according to the Alter Rebbe, unlike other people who disagree with the Alter Rebbe, according to the Alter Rebbe, tearing is only when you violate tearing. If you have two things that are sewed together, woven together, or glued together, and you unglue it, or it's the reversal of sewing. It has to be two entities that are sewed together, and you detach. That's called tearing. One entity, you're not tearing. I'm not saying it's allowed on Shabbos, so it's not so simple, but it's not called tearing. The malacha of koreya, of tearing, koreya means to tear, you're not violating if you do that. If it's one ended, it's according to the Alter Rebbe. So the Chidush Harim is quoting that halacha from Alter Rebbe as a supposed answer to the question, why is it that we refer to the splitting of the sea with the word tearing of the sea? Tearing. Now, based on what we said before, we have the answer. The first time the Yam Suf split, it was one entity, right? You can't tear one entity. You can split it. But after the Yam Suf already split once, once it split, it's two entities now. When the two entities come back together after the Egyptians drown, it's like sewing. And now when the water splits the second time, it's called tearing. The first time was one body. Now it's two bodies of water. What's based? So he said that the first time around, it's called Bekiah because it's one entity. The second time around, based on the laws of Shabbos, now you can call it tearing of the Yam. So we have two answers why it's called Kriyas Yam. It reminds me of the story of Miriam Bas Bilga. There was a woman who lived before the time of Hanukkah, who was a family of Kohanim. The story with Dasan and Amira, that although they were evil people, they had one good thing about caring about their fellow brothers, sisters. There's a woman whose name was Miriam, the last name was Bilga, the daughter of the family called Bilga. They were Kohanim. She fried out completely. She didn't just leave Yiddishkeit. She left. She married the Greek general, Sadyot, like marrying Eichmann. She married a Greek general, and she walked in with her high heels. You know the story. You know the whole night with the Rebbe? No, a lot.
Yeah.
Why do you know so much? No, okay. Miriam Bas Bilga, I'm sorry. Miriam Bas Bilga walks in with her, she's completely gone. Yiddishkeit. She is theirs. He belongs to the other side. She walks in with her husband, the Greek general, the Nazi of that time. He has whatever in his hand, a knife in his hand, an axe in his hand, statue called Zeus, and a pig. And he orders all the Kohanim to sacrifice a pig to the statue in the Beis HaMikdash. And if you don't, you get axed. And she's walking in with him. Walking in with him. Watching him kill people. Watching him force Jews to sacrifice a pig onto Mizbeach to avoid the Torah. What does she do? She takes off her shoes, and knocks on the Mizbeach. And he calls the Mizbeach a name. Wolf, Lucas, in Greek. Lucas, Gemara. This is the end of Tractate Sukkah. Lucas. How long will it be that you don't listen to your fellow Jews, your fellow Jews when they cry? All you do is take their money and force them to bring a lot of sacrifices. The reason why she called the Mizbeach a wolf, because wolves eat sheep. And there's two daily sacrifices that are the sheep in the morning, the daily sacrifices are sheep. So your Mizbeach is devouring our money. And when the Jews in the time of need, when they're distressed, financially distressed, you don't help them. So the Rebbe quoted this Gemara, and the Rebbe started crying. Here is a girl in her obnoxious behavior, disgusting behavior beyond disgusting. What is bothering her? What bothers her? What did she have to say? God of the Jewish people, why don't you take care of your fellow Jews? That bothered her. This is why she left Judaism. So they never cried. This was above Tishrei for bringing in honor of his mother's yahrzeit 50 years ago exactly. Tafshin Lamed Hey, 1975. 3 weeks later, the Rebbe gets mail. For bringing some Chassidus. Boy, did I get mail telling me, well, Baba Rebbe, you have nothing else to talk about except for finding some kind of merit for this shiksa, for this lowlife? You couldn't find anything else to say about them, don't you forget about her? Bam. So the Rebbe responded in a very, very powerful way. That very, very, very seldom do you see this. The Rebbe said it was a story of the Alter Rebbe, where a Chassid had a problem with his son. I think it was his son, who had a dibuk. He had some kind of demonic figure inside of him, and he went crazy. He was going crazy, screaming. It's an unbelievable pain for the person. The Alter Rebbe just ignored it. He went into a baker's, said the following. There's a story in Tanakh with Zechariah Hanavi, who was the one who was prophesying the Korban, who lived at the very end of the first Beit HaMikdash. He got killed. He was assassinated on Yom Kippur in the Beit HaMikdash. Imagine what kind of murder that was. Murdering a Navi on Yom Kippur in the Beit HaMikdash. Alter Rebbe started finding a merit for this person. Alter Rebbe said, you know why he murdered Zechariah? He wasn't a real murderer. He murdered him because he did not want Zechariah to utter the words, there will be a Korban. He felt if he would kill him, I know I'll die, I'll be executed. Especially on Yom Kippur. But at least the Navi won't verbalize his prophecy, and that might extend the life of the Beis HaMikdash. So if it's to extend the life of the Beis HaMikdash, he committed murder to stop the Navi from prophesying. As soon as Alter Rebbe said those words, the dibuk went out of this child. The dibuk was that neshama of the murderer that had no rest. That neshama could not leave, could not go to Gan Eden, for sure not, and not even go to Gehenna. That neshama was wandering and just driving people crazy and had no rest in life. The moment the Alter Rebbe found a schus for that neshama, that person did not want the Navi to prophesy about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, that limud schus allowed that neshama to finally get its resting place in Shamayim. So the Rebbe continued, why do you care if Miriam Asbilga took 1,000 years? Her soul is wandering. Why do you care if I allow her soul to find its rest? The Rebbe is revealing that this daughter, Miriam Asbilga, her soul was, and the Rebbe brought her for final rest. It makes me cry. The Rebbe was emotional. So the Rebbe is talking about saving, caring about even a person like that. So it reminds me of Dasan and Aviram and Miriam Bilga. They were both horrible people, but they both cared. They were not disconnected from their fellow Jews. Amazing story. Okay. That's this part of the class. Okay, now we have another thing to go through. Here's a sikha about the mile of women. Have this down. Sorry for the emotional indulgence. Okay. The sikha. A very powerful sikha. The first page is it says Avodaso, the avodah of the Friedrich Rebbe in reference, Bekesher, in reference, L'Nishnei U'Benos Yisrael. Mihachidushim. You got the page? Put someone down with the first page. Mihachidushim, amongst the novel approaches of my father-in-law, the Kvod Dechak, Dalet Chavkov stands for the Kvod Kedushat, Mem Vav Chet, Mori B'Chami, my teacher, my father-in-law, Mori, my Mem Vav stands for Mori, my teacher. Yes, Chami, my father-in-law, Admor, Adoneinu Marim Rabbeinu, Nasi Doreinu, the Nasi of our generation, Baal HaHilula, that ever refers to the previous Rebbe as the Nasi of his generation, not himself. Never referred to himself as the Nasi of his generation openly. He referred to his predecessor as the Nasi, long after he had passed away. None of the other Rebbes, by the way, referred to their predecessors as a leader of his generation. The Rebbe was the only Rebbe that never referred himself as the Rebbe. As a son-in-law of the Rebbe, and he is, occupying. He's like a shliach, occupying in his absence, occupying. The Rebbe did, however, say, I have to add one thing. The Rebbe did say that the Friedrich Rebbe is what he said was that the Lashon is what was the Lashon exact language he used? Nishmasoi bi, his neshama is in me. Those words. Same neshama, he said, the neshama is in me. He once told someone, I gotta share this with you, that my father-in-law was soft on the outside and hard on the inside, tough on the inside. I am the opposite. I'm tough on the outside, but very soft on the inside. I refer to himself like that. Just want to throw one more thing before we go into the sikha. Basi, you know what Basi Lagami, the first word the Rebbe said as he was, what was the first word? What does Basi stand for? Beis,
Oh, yeah.
Pita Rambam, right? You know that? Beis is the first letter of the Chumash, Bereshis. Aleph is the first letter of Tillim. How do you spell Basi? Beis, Aleph, Tav, Yud. Beis is Bereshis. The Aleph of the word Basi is the first letter in Tillim, which is Aleph, Ashrei. The Tav is Tanya. And how you spell Basi? With the Yud, right? The Yud at the end is the Rambam starts with which word? Yesod, HaYesodos, with a Yud. So the Rebbe's first word is, I have come to make sure everyone learns Chitas and Rambam. There's also more to say. It says the Isa b'Medrash Rabbah B'Mkomo. 1 second, the Isa b'Medrash Rabbah B'Mkomo. Rebbe quotes, the previous Rebbe quotes, I want you to check out the Medrash on the word, I have come to my garden. The word Medrash in several places. But the Rebbe is saying, previous Rebbe is saying, don't look up the Medrash that's found somewhere in Chumash. Look up the Medrash B'Mkomo, on the Pasuk in Shir Hashirim. And we look up the Pasuk, you see, hey, it mentions the name over there. Who's the author of the Basi Lagani Medrash? Lagani, Lignuni, Lamuk, someone by the name of Menachem, the son-in-law of someone whose name was Yosef. The previous Rebbe is wanting you to know, look up that Medrash where the name, the author of the Medrash is Menachem, the son-in-law of Yosena. Guess what? My brother told me the word Bimkomo means in the place. Look up the Medrash, in the place of the actual pasuk. The word Bimkomo is the gematria 194. The Rebbe's middle name is 194. So the Rebbe's first name is hinted in that Medrash, and the very word Bimkomo, it says the Isa b'Medrash Rabbah Bimkomo, Medrash Rabbah on the exact pasuk, in the place of the pasuk, in the Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim. The word Bimkomo, Beis, Mem, Kov, Vav, Mem, Vav, adds to 194, and the Rebbe's middle name, Mendel, is 194 too. So here you have the Rebbe's two names hinted in the very first line of Basi Lagani. I have to share it with you. Found it interesting. Okay. So he says like this. He calls the previous Rebbe the Baal HaYilula, Baal HaYartzeit. Hilula means the Yartzeit here, of a 10th of Shvat, the Asida of Shvat. His askuto, his masruto, his involvement, his devotion, live well to affect, and to influence. Gam al nishei ubenos Israel, also very much on the women and daughters of Israel, binyonei Yahadut, in matters of Judaism, Torah mitzvaseha, including Chasidus, not just including, but especially ubemiyucha Torah HaChasidus, and then the Yisraelism. Moreover, his pu'ul was not just that women are also included in everything that men are included in, but rather ayidei, through which, by means of hadgashas. Hadgasha means to underscore, to emphasize ma'alasam, the unique quality, ma'alatan hamyuchedes, the unique quality of nifshei Yisrael, of Jewish wives and Jewish girls. Shekol achas mehen, each one of them is akeret habayis, which means the mainstay of the home, the foundation of a Jewish home, either already or to be. Ubekocha, and within her capability, within her power, ubiyacholta, within her potential, live well to affect al kol b'nei habayis, on all the members of her household. Gam habanim v'habal, also not just the girls, but the boys and the husband. She can, because when you're the mainstay of the house, you're the foundation of everything that goes on in the home. Like whatever later on the Sikha says, that how does Shabbos enter? With lighting of candles. Who lights the candles? The women. The word ner, by the way, is the gematria. What's the gematria of the word ner? 250. Nun resh. How many mitzvahs do we have? Positive mitzvahs? 248. But what motivates a person to do mitzvah? Ahava and yira. 248 plus 2 makes 250. So the ner of Shabbos, who ushers in the Shabbos, the peace of Shabbos, peaceful and the aura of tranquility, the woman who lights the candle. That's mentioned later on in the Sikha. Where's the mocker that Jewish women are special? As explained in his well-known Sikha, al devar, about k'dimat hanashim la'anashim biyanim ikrim deklal Yisrael. We find that the Jewish women took precedence over the men in the most important and most primary parts of Jewish life, of the Jewish people as a whole. Starting with, next paragraph, kidimatam shel hanashim b'matan Torah. When it comes to Matan Torah, we know that Hashem spoke first to the women. He told Moshe to speak to the women first. as it says in next week's parsha Yisro, Kol Samar leBeis Yaakov, so shall you say to Beis Yaakov, Elu Hanashim, v'achakach, and only afterwards, Bnei Yisrael, Beis Yaakov. Again, Beis Yaakov refers to women. Why? With bias. The women are the foundation of the home. So you make a school for women, you call that Beis Yaakov. So Kol Samar leBeis Yaakov refers to the women, v'achakach, and afterwards, Bnei Yisrael to the men. Ha'anoshim. So we find that women took precedence over men when it came to the Torah. What about the donation to the Mishkan? V'nidos HaMishkan, v'osli Migdash v'shachanti b'socham, which is such an important pasuk that we have mentioned in the Mimer. K'moshakosu v'yavohu ha'anoshim al hanoshim. The men follow the women. The women were they're the initiators of donating, and the men copied them. The men just followed along. You know, shehein ha'yusham b'rishayna. They were first. V'ha'anoshim nitpalu b'hem. The men just acted along, dragged along with them, meaning went along with the women's idea of donating a lot. And then the Rebbe says in Nosaf, in addition to the fact that women donated first, it's not just they were first, but their donations were greater. And he says like this, but Matan Torah, we know that but concerning Matan Torah, we know that the women, the women, unlike the men, refused to give their gold, which they cherished, for the egel. They did not offer their jewelry for the chet egel as the men did, because that would be the opposite of Torah. Now you might say, well, that's maybe because they're cheap. How do you know it's because they really cared? Well, if they're cheap, how come they did offer so much for the Mishkan? So that shows in retrospect that the reason why they didn't offer for the egel had nothing to do with them being cheap. Which, by the way, is the reason I heard this is the reason why women have a holiday called Rosh Chodesh, because the first Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the first Rosh Chodesh. When was the Mishkan built? Rosh Chodesh Nisan. When did we find out that the reason why the women did not want to offer anything for the Egel was because of their dislike to Avodah Zarah? When Rosh Chodesh Nisan came about, when the Mishkan was built, and we saw that then they were very generous. Now we see in retrospect that the reason why they didn't offer for the Egel was because they hated Avodah Zarah. They couldn't tolerate Avodah Zarah. And because Rosh Chodesh Nisan what revealed how women are so dedicated to Hashem, this is the reason why that Rosh Chodesh, and once that Rosh Chodesh became a holiday for women, all the Rosh Chodesh, all the other 12 months of the year are also considered women celebrated by not doing certain like work. They don't sew, don't weave. Today, wash, I'm probably gonna make a wash, but today the washing machines are not really considered hard work. But the old-fashioned washing, women would refrain from washing on Rosh Chodesh because of the fact that Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we all saw their title of they're generous when it comes to the Mishkan, and they're very not generous when it comes to the Egel. Okay, so besides that, we also find what was special about their donation to the Mishkan. They spun the wool. Special kind of talent, spun the wool while it was still attached to the animal, and that's not easy to do. Yeah. And so in addition to that, they were able to have the milo that the wool they were spinning had nurture from a live animal, and a live animal donation is much greater than when it's cut off when it's no longer alive. So it had the milo of chai, it had life to it. The men couldn't do that. So the women not only were first, but they also, when it came to the Medumbas, they were especially involved. It's hard work. It's not easy work to do that, on an animal while the animal is still alive. Okay. As it said here, the last two lines. The Kol Hanoshim Tovu, they spun the wool of the goats. He hoisa Yiseda, with a special kind of craft of talent. From Al Gabi from on while the goats were still alive. They spun their hair, and turned it into wool by spinning it, so on and so forth. Okay. The next page. The Od V'Iker, another interesting is about the Geula. Amru Chazal, our saviors say, on page Kuf Samavav, the second page, the shaychus that women have to Geula. Amru Chazal, our saviors say, V'schar nashim titkaniot, because of the righteous women in Mitzrayim, Shehoyu Ba'os Hador, our forefather, the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt. Nigalo Yisrael Mitzrayim. The same will be true with the future Geula. Aleha Nemar, He made Teischam Yeretz Mitzrayim, just like the days of Egypt. Same way, the same type of schus, I will show you wonders in the future. Ketiya, in the schar of the women living in the times of Mashiach, the last generation of Golus, which is ever referred to as now. The schar noshim tzedkoniye shabalos hador. It'll also be now. K'maymer Razal ein hadorot nigalim ela b'schar noshim tzedkoniye sheyesh b'dor. And especially based on, listen to the Arizal writes. The Arizal was an expert in souls. What does he write? That all the souls of today's women, and likewise today's men, are reincarnations of the Jews that came out of Mitzrayim. Okay? So that means sometimes people feel, I don't ever get that. Some people feel, I felt like I was in the time of Korach, and I remember it was hard to be neutral at that time. The stories. I have back flashbacks, back flashes. I feel like I was there. It's just so familiar to me. It just rings a bell. Could very well be that they were there in a different body. So it does say the women, as much as the men of this generation, Shador HaGulo HaSida, who Gilgul was a reincarnation of the doors when it came out of Mitzrayim. The Alpizeh, having said that, Hanoshim HaTidkaniya Shabbadarenu, the righteous women of our generation, Shabbaschus on Nigalim, which in their schus, their merit, we will be redeemed. Hein, Hanoshim HaTidkaniya Shabbaschus on Yosem Mitzrayim. These are the very same women who in their schus came out of Mitzrayim. And since the Kivon, Shadorenu Zeh, Hudor Acharon Shal HaGolos, it's the last generation of Golos and the first generation of Geula. I got to tell you something. The Rebbe said this a million times, that we have a last. Now, generation doesn't only mean, 25 years. Generation is defined by a new Rebbe. There is no new Rebbe in Chabad, okay? The Rebbe said all the Chabad Rebbeim, I didn't make this up, the Rebbe said this, all the Chabad Rebbeim were the Nasi of their generation and the Mashiach of their generation. Had the generation been worthy, they would have been the Redeemer. The Rebbe said that every single generation has one person who's the Goyal, who is the potential Redeemer. This is not the Rebbe, this is Chassam Sofer says. It's not Rebbe, it's not what they made this up. And the Rebbe said, well, who is that person? We don't know who that person is. So the Rebbe said that all the Chabad Rebbeim, that's what he said. I didn't make it up. That all the Chabad Rebbeim were the Nasiim, the Nasi of their generation, i.e. the Mashiach of their generation. Then the Rebbe said that the Nasi of the last generation of Golos, there's no break between the last generation of Golos and the Nasi Mashiach. In other words, the Nasi of the last generation of Golos is the Nasi who will be called Mashiach. Whatever these other Rebbe's words. There's no break in between. I don't know how to translate that. I'm repeating what the Rebbe said. Not once, not twice, but numerous times. More than numerous times, hundreds of times. I've been around since the 60s, remembering the Rebbe's Chassidas back and forth every single day. From Rengen, I went to every from Rengen. That's all you heard. The letzte der from Golus, from the erste der from Geula. This is the last generation of Golus and the first generation of Geula. Who can hefsek bet Mizayin. There's not going to be any hefsek, any some other Nasir. The Rebbe said. Powerful words. But anyways, finishing the Sikh. The kivon to Dorenu Zeh, who Dor HaAchron Shal HaGalut, the Dor HaRishon Shal HaGula, Kedivrei Kivod Mori B'chami Admor Nesi Dorenu. We see, Rebbe said, the previous Rebbe said that. Shafar Nishlamo Kol in Yonin, the Friedrich Rebbe never said that, by the way. But the Rebbe, a lot of things he said the Friedrich Rebbe said. The Rebbe refers to some of his Mitzvahim as the previous Rebbe Mitzvahim. So we see it's like one person. He didn't give any, whatever he did, he said the previous Rebbe did, quite often. The previous Rebbe, as far as I know, never said these words, that this is the last generation of Golos and first generation of Golos. The Rebbe said those words. But the Rebbe is saying it's the previous Rebbe who said this. We're ready for Kabbalas and Mechil Zakenu. Yishtadel, my father-in-law, Kvod Kedushat Mori B'chami Admor Nesi Dorenu, Lifra will Hashpia V'yoster Al Hanoshim. Why women? Because since the women are responsible for bringing the Geula, we need really to focus on them more even than the men. Why there's such an emphasis on women? Because the Rebbeim knew that it's the women that will bring Mashiach, and we're very close. So therefore, he spent a lot of time. No one spent more time than the Rebbe with women. The Rebbe had sichos just for women. Even the previous Rebbe didn't do that. The Rebbe had yechidis with women and previous what they call the women's convention. The Rebbe was always there. talking to the women, different language, different way to talk to the men, softer. And he used more Yiddish words than Hebrew words. And we talked to kids. I remember, I'll never forget. I'm going to imitate the Rebbe, wording. This is at the Ferengian, at the Lag Bomer parade in 1967. The Rebbe was before the 6 Day War broke out. The Rebbe was saying everything will be okay. There will be a miracle. And he mentioned Rabbi Shimon ben Yehoy gefindt sich in a hail, in a myra, in a hail, in a cave. He said that word myra means in Hebrew cave, and in Yiddish it's hail. In a myra, in case you don't understand Hebrew, in a hail, and if you don't understand Yiddish, in a cave. That was words. And the kids, he spoke a lot of English words. There is a sikh on the Rebbe, by the way, not a special sikh, but to the Machni Yisrael, with the Birim, he spoke a whole sikh in English. You ever heard a sikh in English? He spoke a whole sikh in English. Interesting. I mean, the Rebbe speak with a heavy accent, but my sister had a yechid with the Rebbe once. Told me the Rebbe did not sound like he had any accent at all. Like he sounded British. One of the Rebbe's doctors said the Rebbe spoke to me with zero accent. We'd never hear the Rebbe speak that way in public, always with a very heavy accent. Very heavy accent. When Begin came to the Rebbe in 1976, Menachem Begin, they asked the Rebbe, do you support Menachem Begin? More than 100%, the Rebbe said. More than 100%, these are the words. Do you hear that in English? More than 100%. But the Rebbe did speak, different people. I don't know. I can't tell you why. I don't know. I guess the Rebbe was trying to say you don't have to be perfect English speaker to be able to have influence on people. I don't speak English very well. You see my broken English, the accent. I speak a European accent, but I'm good at But the Rebbe was an engineer. The Rebbe knowledgeable in every single subject in the world, knew every language, and he had an accent. So don't think you have to be sophisticated in order to be respected. Maybe that's what the Rebbe was trying to bring. But when he spoke to private people, sometimes he didn't hear an accent at all. He hardly heard it. The Rebbe also stuttered a lot. I don't know if that's real. He stuttered when he talked to the different people on the hours. You would hear him stutter sometimes, get the word out. But it was very interesting. To my younger brother, bar mitzvah, the Rebbe would test the boys. I didn't get tested. My older brother, the one, like the reading his stuff, he got drilled, and the Rebbe, he got every answer right. The Rebbe was smiling, and then the Rebbe asked him a question that I did learn. The Rebbe smiled again, and the Rebbe gave him the answer. My younger brother also got tested, not drilled. You're making a pilpul, what's it on? Gave the answer, and then my Rebbe started asking questions, and my younger brother couldn't answer. My father nudging him. The Rebbe told my father, "Don't cheat for him. Let him answer himself." But my brother my younger brother did not know Yiddish very well. So the Rebbe started speaking Yiddish to him. That's a sugigret, a maimer, a pilpul, a drasha, a sermon. Rebbe started the word a sermon. Is there any sermon you're going to be speaking? Rebbe used the English word sermon. So there's a lot of, but you see, when Rebbe talks English, he does use pretty, not simple. Some of the words are very, very interesting words in English. I know his French. I heard it when the Rebbe spoke a Sikh in French. One for bringing. The French, he told me that the Sikh was the French words were like, whoa, high level French.
Wow.
I remember that I spoke French, the whole Sikh in French. Speak in Russian, French. The Rebbe did not speak Italian, but he responded to people in Yiddish after they spoke to him in Italian. In German, the Rebbe once said, "I can't tolerate that language. I can't tolerate the German language." The Rebbe said, "It's I can't tolerate that language." But he spoke. I can't be. Very different. In Yiddish, half the words are Hebrew. Yeah, but it's a different. The Jews, thank God, they distorted it. Now it became. It's no longer doesn't have that. No. My father had a whole. My father will tell you a little story. My father, personal story. My father met the Rebbe before he was Rebbe. The previous Rebbe was long before the Rebbe. My father was a Leah as an American boy. He was born in Brooklyn, by the way. And he was sent amongst other 9 other boys to go to Poland, Shvat, and open the yeshiva there right before the war broke out in 1939. When he got there, the war broke out already. On the way, the previous Rebbe, the Rebbe, my father was the oldest of the crowd of the boys, the group. He gave my father medicine, drugs, for the previous Rebbe's health. Because wasn't doing so well. Because after the whole, he suffered a lot, during the incarceration. He was not well, and he needed some kind of drugs. So my Rebbe gives my father drugs, smuggled through the German border on the way to Poland, and put it into his valise underneath all his clothing. So my father had the scope of being a shliach of one Rebbe to another Rebbe, and he's the man in between. He was scared. I mean, it's hard not to be scared. So what happened is that he gets to there could be 2 miracles. Either they don't notice it, or they did notice it. Was das? In German, was das? They opened up his valise, and they found it. Was das? They found the drug. My father said in German language, that's a garnish. It's nothing. That's a garnish. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a garnish. Mach auf. Close. Guy. Like do them. Why did they go? They just found that they smuggled the drugs. They did not see it. They saw it and let him go. So where's my father?
Wow.
We're going to stop here.
No.
Have more stories to tell. Stop here. And we should have a wonderful week. And I wanted to finish the speech here, but I never get to finish anything. I don't get to finish anything I start. Maybe next week we'll finish it. Okay. Take care. Good to see you again, Ariella.
Oh, I yell
Ariella. You were here on Friday, right?
Sorry, I was afraid.
Oh, that's a good reason to come late. Who's there? Oh, wow.
First time.
First time. A big schooler for children. Okay.
Get so upset when I have to hear that.
What?
Get so upset when I'm sitting there to get it out. I never had the Thursday in box. Yeah. Oh. Something like talk about running in water.